Let's talk about Nigel Farage because he's had to ramp up his security after being blamed for the violent riots. Here he is.
Personally, I have to say I'm pretty disgusted by comments made by people like Andy McDonald from the Labour Party, Anna Soubry, former Conservative MP, broadcasters like James O'Brien on LBC, calling these Farage's riots. People saying, actually, I've been orchestrating, organising, encouraging the riots. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. And because of that level of incitement to hatred against me, I've had to have a very significant change in my security situation over the course of the weekend.
Roger, it is so concerning. Where do you see this going?
I think there's two things involved with Nigel Farage, Gabriella. I mean, first of all, it's very convenient for his political opponents to be able to attack the success that the Reform Party is having with the electorate by conflating them with what's going on out in the streets. And because they are opposed to unlimited illegal immigration, claiming that they are the cause of these riots. Put the two and two together, it's kind of like proving that you don't, you don't beat your partner or whatever that old saw is. And then, of course, the other thing, there are a lot of people that don't like Nigel because he is very confrontational and controversial. And again, this is a good excuse to attack him for that. But I don't think many people can point to much direct evidence of anything that Nigel or Reform has done that have caused these riots, other than to be against, illegal immigration. But so are most of the people in the streets, it would seem.
I want to talk to you about the stock market because stock markets and asset values are crashing around the world. You've written for skynews.com.au about the three entirely different and distinct factors that led to more than $100 billion worth of stock being wiped off the ASX in just a couple of days. What's your summary of what led to this?
Yes, well, I mean, it was a kind of a triple witching thing, Gabriella. Three things actually happened. The one that really set it off, and the biggest, was in Japan. There have been a lot of explanations about this, containing a lot of economists' gobbledygook. Let me try to simplify it if I can. I mean, basically, the Japanese currency, the yen, has been very, very cheap for an incredibly long time. You could borrow it for next to nothing. In fact, Japanese interest rates were so low that they had negative interest, meaning that if you deposited money in a Japanese bank, you paid them to hold it for you. That's negative interest. So when you borrowed it, the interest rate was minuscule. It was almost nothing. Now, a lot of people, many trillions of dollars worth of people, or trillions of Aussie dollars or pounds sterling, whatever, borrowed yen in order to buy assets of every kind all over the planet, which is not the greatest investment strategy because you can't really hedge and protect yourself completely. So you're taking the risk. You're borrowing in one currency and you got to assets in another currency. And then, of course, what happened is called the Japanese yen carry trade. Those trillions and trillions upon trillions of dollars became exposed when Japan recently started to raise its interest rates. And that led to what are known as margin calls, where the bank or the other lender that made you the loan says, hey, Gabriella, we lent you 70% or 50%, like a mortgage, of the value of this thing, but now we're lending more than that because with the extra interest you've got to pay, the overall loan is more expensive, so please give us some cash. Now, what happens when there are margin calls is usually a whole lot of lenders say, well, to hell with this, and they dump the assets and pay off the loan immediately. That's what happened, and there was a giant sell-off. And Japan suffered the worst fall in 37 years. And that reverberated around the world because these assets all over the world. Now, unfortunately, at the same time, people discovered that the central bank in America, the Federal Reserve, the Fed, had failed to predict some basic fundamental weaknesses in the U.S. economy around jobs and other things, which meant that the U.S. is likely to go into recession. That scared the you-know-what's out of investors even more, and they started to dump stocks there. That then caused the panic. And then the third thing was that some genius somewhere decided that all the companies that have invested gazillions in artificial intelligence overestimated its value. It doesn't actually think for you yet. It's just a data analysis tool. And they decided these companies are going to lose huge amounts of money, so they started dumping them. So those are the three things that happened. A huge amount of dumping of assets, which of course, you know, if you've got 10 houses on a street and you sell them all at once, the value falls of all of them. And that's what's happened here. That's what caused the crash. I predict it will reverse itself pretty quickly, and, you know, we'll be back in calm waters.
Okay, well, let's talk about the US election. Kamala Harris has selected her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. He's been described as being further to the left than Kamala Harris. What do you make of her choice?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do that, but yeah, he is. She's doubled down. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, I don't know how anybody could vote for Kamala. She was everybody's last choice. Nobody would endorse her until 5 minutes ago. She has an abysmal track record. She doesn't speak very well. I'm not sure her thinking process is all that good. You know, she's nice to look at, and she's funny sometimes. But, you know, she's not presidential, and she's so left. And the things that she's done are so left and so woke and so exactly what America does not need right now. And then she goes and doubles down and picks this guy, which strategically is so stupid. Now, had she picked Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, who's very popular and would have probably won her Pennsylvania, which is, you know, kind of sort of the state on which this election depends.
Absolutely.
If she had Pennsylvania, she didn't pick him. They say because he's Jewish, and the squad, those four ladies, some from Somalia and elsewhere, in Congress, who are very anti-Israel and anti a lot of other things, are pretty much running what I call the new Democrats these days. And they said, no Josh, no Jew. And so she picked him. And I think she's probably lost the election as a result of picking somebody so far left with a track record of his own, which is probably not even as good as hers, which isn't very good.
And at the moment, Kamala Harris is just refusing to give interviews. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is set to interview Donald Trump on Monday. What can we expect from that?
May I just go back and add one thing about Kamala that I forgot to say, which is that I think the reason that Joe Biden is still president until January, which is of all the insane things going on in the world, and there sure are a lot of them at the moment, for him to remain a man who is not fit to run for public office, to be running the free world for 6 months from now until January, I think the reason for that is because if he stepped down from the presidency, as well as the candidacy he stepped down from, and Kamala took over, she would probably make a mistake before November, just like picking Walz, that would cost the Democrats the election. That's why they're keeping Joe in place. Yeah, Elon Musk. I'm sorry, ask me again, please.
Yes, so what can we expect? Elon Musk set to interview Donald Trump on Monday. A lot of eyes will be on that one.
I think there's a triumvirate of three, maybe five people that are kind of potentially the saviors of all this. I think there's Donald Trump. I think there's Elon Musk, who has to be now, even more than Biden, the most powerful human being on the planet. Mm-hmm. I mean, Musk could put any country out of business in 5 minutes by repurposing his satellites and knocking out all of theirs. It's incredible. So Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and I would add my friend Douglas Murray, and also Jordan Peterson, 5. I think those people can bring some sense and reason to the world, and I think that's what they're doing. I think the debate between Musk and Trump on Monday will be something very special to watch, and probably very exciting and rather exciting and inspiring. I think that Elon is getting a lot of flack at the moment because he's taken on the president of Venezuela, hasn't he? And now he's taken on the brand new prime minister of Britain, and Starmer and the Labour Party don't like that at all. But he's in a position to do so. He's also pretty right in the things that he's saying. And he's got a tool called X, which is the largest communications tool in the world now. So he's pretty unstoppable.
Roger, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Great to speak with you.
Great to talk to you too.